So we're going to work on Rajakapotasana, or king pigeon, and there's a million different variations to this, and we're going to do one that I think most closely mirrors the final pose, except in a much more approachable way. So you'll need a blanket and a block, and Crystal, Janice. There'll be a little bit of modification, but for the most part, you should be able to do most of this. And then you'll lie down on your back to start. And you're going to start in supported bridge, so grab your block, and it can be really low. You don't have to turn it all the way up to the tall height, but you'll place it underneath your sacrum, and just make sure that's where it is. So that's the part of your spine that's actually fit in between the sides of your pelvis, so it's pretty low. So make sure it's not on your lower back. It's actually on your hips is where it's going to seem like it is. And then close your eyes, and just start to breathe evenly and smoothly in and out through your nose. And once you kind of settle in and start to make your breath a little bit longer, always pay attention to just what you've gotten onto your mat with. And it's really never the same day in and day out, and you don't really have a choice with what you've shown up with. It's your choice to decide to do something productive with whatever it is. So if you need to take breaks or to back off because of any reason, then do. It's just a practice to pay attention to what's happening in the moment. And then it's a big fancy pose, or that's what they call it. So don't worry if you don't get all the way through it. And one day, maybe it'll happen, but the process of learning this is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. So just let it be that. All right. Now, make sure that your knees are bent all the way until your ankles feel like they're directly underneath of them, and have your feet positioned hip distance apart. And for almost everyone, I've decided that that's 2 inches narrower than you think it is. So bring your feet to hip distance. And then make sure they're parallel, and you can kind of decide that by paying attention to where the weight is in your feet. And if it feels like the outer edges are heavy, turn your big toes in a little. Right. And then just push your feet down, and do that without having to lift your hips up. The block's there to support your hips. And then wiggle your shoulders under you just a little so that your collarbones broaden out some. And then grab hold of the edges of your mat with your hands. And then you're going to leave your feet stuck to your mat. You're not actually going to let them move. But in effort, try to pull your heels towards your shoulders, or try to bend your knees more, just so the backs of your legs begin to work. And then press your outer upper shoulder down into the mat, and see if you can take your upper back through towards your chin more than it already is. Right? And then just pay attention. The block is there to lengthen your tailbone, but to support you as well. So it should feel like you have some amount of length in the low back, an extra arch in the upper back, and some work in the back of your legs. Right? And then just for a couple of breaths, pull the mat towards your heels so that you get onto the outer upper shoulder a little more. And on an inhale, lift your hips just an inch or so off of the block. And just feel the work in your legs. See if you can get the hamstrings to work more, that idea of intentionally trying to bend your knees without moving your feet. And then the work comes to your upper back to push it into your chest as your inner thighs spin down and your tailbone lengthens. And then lower yourself back down. Move your block out of the way. Lower your hips all the way down. And then once you're down, cross your right ankle over your left knee. Flex your right ankle so that you see the toes pull straight back to your kneecap, and then reach back and grab the back of your left thigh. Right? And then instead of grabbing the shin, make sure you're grabbing the thigh. Right? And then sides of your waist, they should feel pretty even. And so if you kind of tilt your hips laterally left and right, you'll be able to feel if one side's shorter than the other. Get them to feel even. And then flex your right ankle, hold that. See if you can use the muscular effort in your outer right hip to push the knee wider, taking it a little more externally. And then flex or Barbie foot your left foot. And do the same thing you were just doing in bridge. Try to pull the left heel down towards your sit bone so the back of your leg is working, that extra little bit of bend. And then collarbones wide, same thing. Just going to keep adding and adding until we get there. Right, now uncross and do the other side. So right ankle, left knee. Or sorry, left ankle, right knee. You repeat, reach through, grab the back of your right leg. Just do the exact same thing all over again. And then sides your waist even here. Flex left ankle, it's going to be important. So you can always flex it, you can Barbie foot it, but it has to be engaged so that your toes and knee are facing the same direction. That's all that matters. And then use the outer left hip, the back of your left hip. See if you can use those muscles, take the knee wider. And then flex or Barbie foot your right foot and pull the heel down just so you feel the back of your leg begin to work. All right, you two, undo that, and you're going to come up to all fours. All right, so come up to hands and knees. Just position your hands directly under your shoulders, spread your fingers wide, and then place your knees under your hips and have your knees and feet hip distance apart. Right, and then support your lower back enough from your abdomen that it doesn't feel like you're drooping through your midsection, but not that you're rounding either. Right, and then widen your collarbones and start to pull them through your upper arms without letting your lower back arch any more than it is. Squeeze your arms together and stretch your right leg up to the height of your hip. Flex your right ankle, and then, or you can Barbie foot. I'm just going to say that. Anytime I say flex, do either one, whatever makes more sense. Right, roll your inner thigh, the right one, up to the ceiling here so the big toe faces down. Now start to pull your chest wider through your upper arms so that maybe you can take your gaze slightly higher. And now bend your right knee and bring the heel up towards the ceiling. And once you do that, just a little bit of hugging the outer hip in, the outer knee in to keep the foot facing straight up. And then take your left arm and reach back. Grab the inner edge of your right foot with your hand. And if you have to unsquare just a drop to do that, then do. But then once you have hold of the foot, come back to hip square, chest square. Right now you're holding the engagement of your hamstring, bending the knee like you were just doing without the hand. But now add your quad. Try to kick the shin bone back and pull it out of your hand, but don't let it go, to widen and further lift your chest. And then see if as you kick the shin back, rolling the inner thigh up, you can arch the upper back and let your gaze go up, up, up without putting any wrinkles in the back of your neck. Good. And then again, if you need a little more low belly, do a little low belly just for your lower back. Good, Janice. And then stretch your left arm forward, your right leg back. And do the other side. Set it down. Right? Stretch your left leg back to start. Right. So as you do that, if the weight shifted into your right knee too much, hug the right hip in, reach through the inner left thigh, the inner left heel a little more, collarbones wide, and see if you can look up just a little. Okay, and then start to bend your left knee. Bring the heel up. If the knee flared out to the side, hug the outer left shin, outer left knee in, and then pull your chest wide, and with your right hand, grab your left ankle. Good. And then once you have that, so you were just working your hamstring to hold the leg up there. Now keep working it, but add your quad, the front of your thigh, to kick the shin back, trying to straighten your knee as you're bending it all at the same time. And you use that to start to arch the upper back, pushing it into your chest. And then your body's doing this off-center, asymmetrical thing. See if you can keep your chest and your hips square as you do different things with your right and left arm, right and left leg. One more breath, arch the upper back any amount more. See if you can maybe look up a little further. Good, you two. And then stretch your leg back, your arm forward, set it down. All right, down dog, here we go. Let's move a little bit. So come into downward facing dog, just press your hands. You can pedal your feet back and forth, do that fidget around thing that sometimes feels really good. And sometimes it feels good just to hold still too and explore what your body feels like in a completely still position. Now, grab the edges of your mat with your hands. And then once you have your mat, wrap your outer arms strongly down towards the floor, even way more than you think you normally would. It would probably unground your hand if you did it when your hands were flat. And then put a bend in your knees and come up high onto your toes. Right now, hold that extra wrapping of the triceps. Keep your arms by your ears. Don't let them move. Push your upper back through to your inner thighs. And once you get that sense of a little work in the upper back, notice what it did to your low back. If you overarched, you're going to drop your sit bones a little bit. If it just created a huge amount of length, you're just going to stay with this. Now hold the shape of your spine. These look very good. Start to press your thighs back so your knees straighten out. And just pay attention. Is my spine changing shape? If it is, pause. And then draw your heels down. Put them right behind your second toe, and then bring your hands back to shoulder distance and create this with an anchored, firm set of hands. So inner hand will have to push a little more than the outer. Good. Then inhale, come forward into plank, shoulders over your wrists. And do the same thing that you were doing on all fours. First, this time, your knees have to be straight. You have to flex the ankles so the energy drives back, but then you'll have to do that belly work to make sure that you're supported through your midsection, and then pull your collarbones wide. And then shift forward, pull your shoulders beyond your wrists, and on your next exhale, halfway down into chaturanga. Right? Everything else should have stayed the same. If it didn't, you can always put your knees on the mat. These are very good. Take one more breath, and then lower yourself all the way down. Right. Leave your hands back underneath. Actually, let's do interlaced. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Right. Push your toes down and back into the mat. Get your knees straight and your hip points anchored, and then on an inhale, lift your chest and head up off of the floor. Right, your whole lower body should still feel really strongly anchored. Work from your upper back to start to pull your chest through towards your chin. That same thing you did in bridge. If your arms are straight, you can get them up off of your low back. Go ahead. And if you can push your hands all the way together like these ladies are, then push your palms together as well. You take one more breath. See if you can lift a little higher and then position your gaze where it feels like your neck is an extension of what's happening between your shoulder blades. Exhale, lower yourself all the way down. All right, come up into Sphinx pose. So put your elbows underneath your shoulders. Have your arms parallel with one another, shoulder distance apart. And then make sure that your toes are anchored, but more specifically, get your hip points very grounded, and then keep your arms glued to the mat like you did with your feet when you were in bridge, but try to drag them back towards your waist so that your collarbones pull through your upper arms. And then when you start to get that little bit of work, push your chest, the sternum, up towards your chin, keeping your hip points anchored. And then as long as you have no low back issues, you're going to go on. If you do, you're just going to stay here, which is no big thing. If you don't, you're going to start leading with your inner thighs to bend your knees just a little bit, bringing your feet up off of the floor. Right? So feel the work of the backs of your legs. Pay attention to that. You have to use your inner hamstrings a little bit more to keep the legs parallel. Maybe bend the knees a little further and either Barbie feet or flexed ankles. Inner thighs up, hip points stay down, chest pulling wide, sternum lifting. Good. And then straighten your legs all the way out. Lower yourself down. Move your hands back underneath your elbows now. And then push your toes down and back, knees straight. Leave them pointed, Crystal. We're going to go to up dog. And then on an inhale, straighten your arms, keep your legs straight, and all the way up into upward facing dog you go. And keep the toes reaching away. Little lift to the hip points so your low back is lengthened. Lots of work in your upper back so you're arching there. And then exhale, roll up and over your toes into downward facing dog. Good. All right. And look forward at your hands. Bend your knees, walk or hop your feet up in between them. Feet together, inhale, chest wide. Think about creating that same back bend. And then exhale, keep your spine long, fold from your hip crease, Uttanasana. Inhale, come all the way up. Bring your arms alongside your ears. It doesn't matter if your palms touch, but your elbows need to be straight. Then exhale, hands to your heart. Surya Namaskar A, inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold forward and down. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, look forward, chest wide. Exhale, step, plank pose. Can you take an inhale, belly in, exhale, shift and lower, chaturanga. Flip your toes, inhale, upward facing dog, keep your knees up off of the mat. And then exhale, do that same thing, keep them off the mat and press back into down dog. So look for a place where your legs and arms work evenly. And you can do that a little bit more by lifting your kneecaps, and all that means is straighten your legs. And once you do that, you can use that lifting to press your pelvis further away from your hands so that the weight comes out of your hands a little more into your legs. And look forward, bend your knees lightly, feet between your hands. And inhale, chest wide, look forward slightly. Exhale, fold at your hips. Inhale, come all the way up, bring your arms alongside your ears. And exhale, hands to your heart. Again, inhale, arms up. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, chest wide, look up. Exhale, walk, or if you're going to hop, hop into chaturanga. Inhale, back bend, chest wide, look for length in the low back. Exhale, press back, downward facing. Good. And steady, even breath. And try to hold your gaze still. And just notice as you practice what changes in your body, what changes in your mind. There's nothing specific that has to happen. You're just looking for what is happening. Look forward, feet to your hands again. Inhale, chest through. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms up again. And exhale, join your hands together. Good. Last one, inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sternum through your upper arms. Exhale, lightly, long exhale into chaturanga. Try to link it with a really big inhale into up dog. And exhale, pull back into downward facing dog. Okay, so from here, lift your right leg up just to the height of your hip. Once your right leg is up, look at the big toe, make sure it's steered straight down, and then give this leg as much energy as you're giving your left leg. So knees straight, reaching back through the heel, pressing the floor down with your hands. Right? And then without letting anything else shift, from your inner thigh, bend your right knee and bring the heel to the ceiling. Right? Just start there to feel the work in the back of your leg, and then continue with it without letting the knee flare out, and pull the heel as close to your sit bone as you can get it. Good. And now inhale forward to plank, and without rounding your upper back, exhale, pull your right thigh to your chest, keeping your collarbones wide and your gaze forward. So first, just start with the hip flexor, and you'll feel your hip points pull towards your lower ribs. Now I want you to draw your belly in, let your lower back round, let your upper back round a little bit, and get the hip points closer, so you can get the knee a little bit closer to your chin by drawing the abdomen in. Good. And then look forward if you haven't, and step your foot through to your hands. Lower your back knee down. Bring your hands to your right knee. And then once your hands are on your right knee, just lunge forward, hugging your thighs together without letting your front knee buckle in. And just notice if it feels like your hip points are lying on top of your right thigh bone. And if they are, start from your lower belly. Draw the abdomen in and see if you can get the hip points to begin to rise up. And if you can make enough space by doing that, then stay where you are. If you can't, back off, move the weight a little bit back into your back knee, then draw the abdomen in, and see if you can hold that and shift any amount further forward. Good. And then reach your arms out to the side, stretch them up alongside your ears, maybe look up if you can arch the upper back enough to do that, and then keep your arms straight and bring your hands closer, and maybe they touch. Good. Exhale, hands down to the mat, curl your back toes under. You might need to shorten your stance up a little bit. Then inhale, come up into crescent pose. Reach your arms all the way up for one moment, and then bring your hands back down to your hips. Right. Now once they're down, bend your back knee a little bit like you did when you were in the lower lunge. Pull your abdomen in and draw the tailbone down. Now hug your outer hips in towards one another. Hold all of this, and maybe push your back leg a little bit straighter. All you're doing is looking for the edge where you can hold your lower back stable and get an opening in the front of your left thigh. Now interlace your fingers behind your back. Reach your arms straight down towards your inner left thigh. Keep holding the work of your lower belly. See if you can use your upper back a little further to lift your chest higher and higher. Think about trying to take your upper back up and over a big exercise ball or beach ball that's behind you. Good. Take one more breath. Arms can go out and up alongside your ears now. Maybe touch here in crescent. These are good. Okay, exhale, hands to the mat, and take yourself through a vinyasa into downward facing dog, and we'll do the second side. Good. Okay, left leg, stretch it up to the height of your hip. Just start there. Just look at what's happened in your right leg. Make sure it hasn't changed shape, and then flex your left ankle, drive through the heel, get the big toe facing down. Then start, just bend the left knee and bring the heel to the ceiling. And again, check, did anything change? If it did, adjust. And then start to bend your left knee further and further, bringing the heel in. You're just looking for the back of the leg to work. Upper back should still feel like it's pressing through to your chest. Now come forward to plank. Hold that work, chest wide, and start to pull your left thigh to your chest without rounding. Right, there'll be this little draw up of the hip points towards your lower ribs, the shortening of your front body. See if you can continue to add to that by drawing the belly in, starting to round the lower back. Keep your back leg straight. Maybe the upper back rounds a tiny bit, but now look between your hands, step your foot through, lower your back knee down, bring your hands to your left knee, low lunge. So feet hip distance. And then once you're up, if you've already shifted all your weight forward, fine. Hug the tops of your thighs together. See if you can get your left hip point, the front hip point, up off of your left thigh bone by just drawing your belly in without shifting back. If you can't, shift back until you can get that little bit of space. You're going to need it later. Good. And then lift the chest up a little more. Reach your arms out. Stretch them up alongside your ears. If you know you can look up and touch, then go ahead and do that. And then exhale, hands down to the mat. Curl your back toes under. Lift your back knee up. And once your back knee is up, if you need to shorten, do, and come up into crescent pose. I like one breath to take the arms all the way up. I just do. And then bring your hands back down behind your back. Interlace your fingers the other way. And then bend your back knee. Good. Pick your hip points up. Hug your thighs together. Lift your chest. Press the back leg any amount straighter without letting the lower back change shape. You're trying to hold stability in your lumbar spine and keep the hips rising up off of your left thigh. And then work in the upper back, chest up, lift up and over. Think about it's a minor back bend in the upper back. You really have to, as you take yourself up and over, keep the front body shortening, so belly in. And then last breath, arms up. And then exhale, hands down to the mat, and vinyasa back through to downward facing dog. All right, let's let's do some bees, shall we? Right, look forward, see your hands, bend your knees, and step or hop your feet up. Inhale, chest through. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees, drop your hips, inhale into chair pose. Janice almost fell over. And then exhale, press up and stand, and bring your hands to your heart in mountain pose. Good. All right, let's do some bees. We'll pause in warrior one. So inhale, bend your knees, sit back into chair pose. Exhale, fold forward, legs straight. Inhale, chest wide, pull it through, and then exhale, step or hop lightly through vinyasa, back into down dog. Once you're in down dog, step your right foot through to your hands, spin your back heel flat, and inhale, come up into warrior one. And once you're all the way up in warrior one, bring your hands back down to your hips, straighten your front leg all the way out. Right, now start with your back leg, anchor the outer edge of your back foot, and straighten that knee fully, priority one, and hold that. Then get your hip points up so your lower back is lengthening. That's priority two. You hold those things steady, and maybe you square your hips a little bit more. Right, and then you pause and start to bend your front knee, knowing back leg needs to stay the way it was, hip points need to stay up, might not go to 90. And then arms out and up, reach them up. Now see if you can arch your upper back to lift your chest a little higher. Make sure you're wrapping the left side ribs forward, bringing the chest to square. And then maybe look up and touch. These are gorgeous. Exhale, hands to the mat, and step through a vinyasa to down dog. These ladies must have eaten their Wheaties this morning, because these are some very nice poses. Left side, step your left foot through, spin your right heel down, inhale, warrior one, all the way up. And then hands back down to your hips. And I know we do warrior one all the time, but straighten your front leg out. It's just a little different way to approach it. Back leg straight, pinky toe glued, right? Hold that, hip points up. Once those two things, the priorities are maintained, then square your hips and bend your front knee just to the edge of where you can go without changing the two priorities. And then arms up. And then once they're up, chest can definitely square off. That's priority three. But maybe you arch your upper back enough to look up. Maybe you bring your arms closer and palms touch. But back leg, hip points, chest square, those are all the major points today. And then exhale, hands down, slow through a vinyasa back into down dog. Good. And then look forward, see your hands, bend your knees, hop or step your feet up. Inhale, chest wide, thighs back. Exhale, fold, crown of the head, reach it away from you. And then inhale, bend your knees, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, push up, stand, bring your hands to your heart, mountain pose. Again, inhale, bend your knees and sit back. This time we'll do it on the breath. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, chest wide and look up. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, press up and back into downward facing. Right foot forward, back heel down. You only have one breath, but make it the most beautiful warrior one, just like you just did. Then exhale, hands down. Pull your belly in as you bend your elbows. Inhale, arch your upper back, lengthen your lower. Exhale, press back. Once you're there, core control, use it to step your left foot through, right heel down. Think I have one breath, but I'm going to make it like I have 1,000, so it's the same alignment. Good. Exhale, hands down. Right, take it through slowly. You can always skip these vinyasas between the warriors and before and after them, frankly, and just step back to down dog. Just depends on your energy level. And then look forward, bend your knees, hop or step your feet up. Inhale, arch. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, drop your hips, inhale into chair pose. And then exhale, push up, stand, hands to your heart, mountain pose. All right, we'll step wide to face the left side of your mat and step your feet nice and wide apart. And if you need a block for triangle or half moon, you can set it up to your outer right foot. You spin your right leg out, spin your back toes in, reach your arms out to the sides, and then let your right hip, your right knee, and the center of your right foot face dead ahead. Hips will be off center, but chest square it off. Now hinge and fold into triangle. Oh, hello. You probably couldn't hear that, but her hip just popped so loud. She's all right. Once you're down, the weight in the ball of your front foot, the right hip swinging under, so the inner thigh is rolling to the ceiling. And contract the left side of your torso, pull your left ribs closer and closer towards your left hip point, shortening that side of your body, and then doing that little bit of belly work that we've been doing to make sure the hip points are rising off your thigh bones or towards your lower ribs. And then the upper back, create an arch there. We're not going to be here for long, just creating the shape that you're going to end up in half moon. So look down with your gaze now, let this imprint, bend your front knee, move your hands forward, and step into half moon. Once you're in half moon, make sure this standing foot still dead ahead, the knee dead ahead, the right hip under. And then flex your left ankle and keep that leg as active as it just was in triangle. And then do enough belly work and enough upper back work that your spine feels the same shape it did a second ago. Right, now, if you have lower back issues at all, if you have sciatica or any of those things, please stay here. This is a beautiful pose and you're going to stay. If you don't, you're just going to start to work from the back of your left thigh again. So start to bend your left knee and bring the heel towards your sit bone, keeping your left thigh parallel with the floor. Good, now arch your upper back and see if with your left hand you can reach back and grab your left ankle. You might need to unsquare a little tiny bit like you did when you were on all fours, but once you have your foot, re-square your chest to the side, keeping your right hip under. Now you had to work your hamstring, now work your quad and try to kick the shin back, trying to just arch your upper back. You have to do that same thing you did in crescent. Pull the lower belly in a little bit to keep your lower back safe and squeeze the right hip in to keep the external rotation in your right hip. Good. Right, now go slow, stretch your left leg back, reach your left arm straight up, and then look down and step back into triangle pose. Try to make it a graceful transition. If it doesn't go well, you go, tomorrow I'll be more graceful, but at least I went slowly. And then inhale, bring yourself back up to standing, and switch legs. So left leg out, right toes in. And then once you have that, you set up into triangle, side two. Right, stretch your arms out to the sides. Make sure your hips off center, chest is where you get square to the side of your mat, hinge and fold triangle. And then choose where you put your hand based on how your spine feels, not on where you think your hand should go. So if it needs to be really high to maintain the length in both sides of your torso and to keep you from arching or rounding, then put it really high. And then get your legs active, belly in, upper back. That's where you're looking to work just to continue that same shape in your spine you've had. And then look down, put a bend in your left knee, and you're going to step up into half moon and try to feel all the same things that you just had in triangle, but now with a balance. Once you're up, line up your heels, straighten both knees, draw your belly in, turn your chest open, stack your ribs, and push your upper back through to your chest. Right? If you're staying, stay. It's a perfectly good place to stay. If you're going on, bend your right knee, get the hamstring to work. Right? You'll have to do the same thing. The inner hamstring works a little more than the outer, and then reach back with your right hand. Keep the back of the leg working. Grab the foot. If you come out, no big deal. Right? And once you have the back of the foot, keep the work of the back of the leg, but try to straighten the knee, pulling the foot away from your hand without letting it go. And do that just so you can get a little more of a back bend happening in your upper spine. Good, Janice. Make sure you have the lower belly and the left hip hugged in, and then straighten your right leg out, reach the right arm up. Try to go slowly. If that keeps happening, you don't worry about it. Step back, triangle. And then inhale, come on up to standing. Square your feet off, step to the front of your mat, and we'll do a sun salutation. Right, feet together, hands together, and seriously, I fall all the time. Frankly, it's more fun sometimes. So, right, inhale, arms up, you two. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, pull your chest wide. Exhale, take a vinyasa or step back into down dog if you don't need the whole thing. Good. All right. One more external before we go on. So step your right foot through. Spin your back heel flat. Line up heel to arch and bring your right hand to the inside of your right foot. Once you have that, turn your chest open and reach your left arm up. And like you just did in triangle pose, if it feels like you're laterally tilting your spine or arching your left side ribs up to the ceiling, put a block underneath your hand. Back leg straight. That's the same thing you did in Warrior One with it. And then right hip, move it under. Push your back of your right shoulder into the knee into the arm, and have the hip, knee, toes dead ahead like triangle. Then work from the lower belly, just so you have some length in the lower back. The upper back's where you're going to push in, pulling your sternum to your chin like you did in bridge. And now if you can keep all those alignment points, then half bind the top arm or full bind the top arm. If you can't, stay with the top arm up. So the arms and all these additions that happen in poses, they're just there as extra little fluff or things that prep for the next pose. But the template alignment is so much more important than where you position your arms. And then if your arm is behind your back, shoulder, head back, collarbones wide. And then you can use your hand to push the right hip under or to roll the inner thigh up, depending on where the hand is positioned, so that you continue to externally rotate that hip. And then take your bottom arm down, reach your top arm straight up again. And then look down. Inhale, take a breath up into warrior two, because it's just a nice place to be. I don't know what that means. And then exhale, hands to the mat, and vinyasa to down dog. Warrior two is a nice place to be. That should be a bumper sticker. Make t-shirts that say that. Right, second side, Rajakapotasana, left foot forward, right heel down. Okay, heel to arch, hand to the inside, turn open, take your right arm up. And so as you turn your chest open, as you stack your ribs, the left hip, have it drag under your body, the knee face straight ahead over your toes. So you have all those same points in one line. The back leg nice and straight. Now give your belly that little zip up. Just pulling the hip points up off of your thigh bones. You're just going to need it later. And then decide what you're going to do with your top arm based on maintaining the length in your spine and maintaining your hip alignment. So either half bind, full bind, or keep your arm up. Well, if you fully bind, you can see Janice didn't change anything. If you fully bound and your hip jutted to the side of your mat, your chest is facing the floor, you've lost the essence of the pose, and that's not the point. You're going to need this external hip thing in order to do the final pose. So be fine with where your arms are if they're just parted apart. That's a great place to be. Janice, a little more low belly. Ha. Good. And then bottom arm down, reach your top arm back up again. Look down, inhale yourself up into warrior two. It's the good place to be. And then exhale, hands to the mat and take it through. Sometimes I say the strangest thing. I know, not sometimes, it's actually all the time. I say weird things, and then they stick in my head, and I think about them all day. Right, look forward, bend your knees, step or hop to the front of your mat. And do one more standing pose before we go on. So inhale, chest wide. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come all the way up to standing with your arms up. And then exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Right, so not a huge crowd pleaser. I know that this one's not my favorite either, but it just makes so much sense where we're going. I can't, I'm all about this analytical thing. So we're going to do it anyway. So bend your right knee. And with your hands, reach back and grab your ankle. Right. So once you have hold of your right ankle with both hands, bring your knees together. Now, if you can't hold them with both hands, or your ankle with both hands, just hold it with your right hand and put your left hand on your hip. That's fine. Okay. Now, inner thighs, spin them in, knees hug together. Now pay attention to your hip points. Pick them up off of your thigh bones by pulling your belly in. Now, keep the hamstring working. But try to kick your shin back to arch your upper back slightly. Now you're not thinking king dancer, you're thinking warrior three. So get enough arch and opening in your upper back, but the maintenance of the lower back stability from your belly, and start to fold halfway forward. As you do, lead with your inner right thigh a little more like we've been working. Outer left hip has to squeeze in, foot very anchored. And then see if maybe you can kick the shin back and arch the upper back a drop further. And I fall out of this every single time. I'm not kidding. And then I think all kinds of things about what's happening. And Janice is like, can we just get out of it? Okay, stand up, inhale, and bring your feet all the way together. It was really nice though. Janice, it was a gorgeous pose. Right, let's do the second side. Right, bend your, she's such an audible sigh right there. Bend your left knee and grab your ankle. Okay, and then either both hands, one hand, but you're looking to bring the knees together to square your hips and your chest. Right, now start belly work, kick the shin back as you continue to work the hamstring, get that sense of arching in the upper spine, and then start to fold at your right hip crease. As you do, you'll have to do more and more belly work, right outer hip work to hold the stability. And then put your eyes on one point. Lead with your inner left thigh a little more so the knee stays hugged in. Steady breath. If you wobble all over the place, it's all good. Good. I do like half the poses with them, like in just squeezing all my muscles standing here. I must look very funny. Right, and then stand yourself all the way up. Bring your feet all the way together. It's over. That was it. It was over. Faster than you knew. Hands together. Let's do a sun salutation. Inhale, reach your arms up. That was all the poses you have to do. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, pull your chest wide, look forward. Exhale through a vinyasa to down dog. Okay, so one back bend before we go on to where we've been building all day. So inhale, come forward into plank. And then exhale, lower all the way down to the mat. All right. Bend your knees, reach back, grab the outer edges of your ankles. And you've done your asana. So once you have hold of the outer edges of your ankles, knees can be hip distance or all the way together, feet, same thing. And then flex or Barbie feet. Keep your hip points anchored, lead with your inner thighs like we've been working, and start to kick your shins back as you keep working your hamstrings. Let that lift your chest up. When you cannot do any more work from your legs, work into your upper back to start to lift and open the chest. And then position your gaze as high up as feels comfortable on the back of your neck. Take 2 more breaths. And then on your third inhale, put your hands under your elbows and all the way into up dog. Good. And then exhale, up and back into downward facing dog. All right, here we go. Almost there. Step your right foot through to your hands. Lower your left knee down. Move it back a couple more inches. Good. Right. And then from here, lunge yourself forward, but do that same thing we were doing at the beginning. A little bit of belly in so your hip points are rising up. Right. Now start to twist your chest to the right. And then look back at your left foot. If this is already a stretch in the front of your left thigh, you're welcome to stay here. If you're going on, leading with the inner thigh, bend your left knee, foot straight up, and grab the foot with your right hand, inner or outer, it doesn't matter. Okay, keep the right knee facing dead ahead, right heel anchored. Okay, do that for just a couple of breaths, pulling your chest through, widening it, and turning it towards your inner right thigh. Good. All right, now pivot your right toes out, a couple of degrees to the right. Okay. Flex your right ankle so you're just on the heel. Then if that's in your knee or your low back at all, come back to what you were doing before. If not, you're going to let your right knee move open a little bit to the side of your mat. External rotation, just like a warrior 2 leg. Look, you're already in the pose, very fancy. It's just an easier version of what you're going to do, well, easier, so to speak, but easier than the final pose. Right, and then hug the knee back first, turn the toes square, dead ahead, let go of your back foot, step back into plank, and take a vinyasa, or you can go right back into down dog. Good. Okay, second side, bring your left foot through, lower your right knee down, move it back some, and then once you're there, keep the knee facing ahead, turn your chest to the left, look back at your right foot. Okay. Hip points up, arch the upper back, and then bend your right knee. Try to use the inner thigh to bring the foot straight up, grab the foot. And then once you have it, you're lunging forward, trying to create a little space between your hip point and your thigh bone. There'll be an opening in the front of your right thigh. Unless you have very, very bendy hip flexors, which I do not. Okay, and then turn it into an external. So turn the toes out some, flex your ankles so you're on the heel so you know you're not going to be in your knee, and then let the knee move open to the side of your mat, just like as if you were turning this into a warrior 2 front leg. And just a couple of breaths, letting this shape sink in, knowing it's pretty much what you're going to do in a second when we go into the final pose. Right, and then let go of turn your front foot in first, and let the heel land, and then let go of the back foot, vinyasa, or down dog. All right, and now once you're in down dog, drop down to your knees, and you're gonna need to get your blanket. So you're gonna roll your blanket up like a jelly roll, or a cinnamon roll, like Cinnabon. Maybe they'll sponsor me now. Right, so once you have this, you can leave it in the middle of your mat like this, or you can set it off to the side, whatever is going to be easier. And you'll come into downward facing dog. This is going to be your prop up for single pigeon. And even if you don't normally prop yourself in single pigeon, you're going to try it this way because it makes the pose a lot more approachable and safe. Right, so from here, stretch your right leg up and back, open your right hip and bend your knee. Okay, and then do the work we've been doing. So heel, drive it down towards your sit bone so your hamstring is working. This right hip is externally rotating. And then left leg, it's completely neutral. Now come forward to plank and pull your right knee to your right tricep. Once that lands, hold the knee and the tricep, bring your right foot across towards your left wrist, and then set yourself up into single pigeon. Position the blanket underneath your right sit bone and underneath the front of your left thigh so that you feel anchored and level from left to right. And then fold forward just for a few breaths into single pigeon. You can just relax and recline and let go. Make sure that little bit of effort of inner left thigh spinning to the ceiling so the left hip moves down, left side ribs move down. You're very square to the floor. I always think whenever I get people here that they're just going to want to stay and they're not going to move. And when I say get out, they're just going to look at me with horrible eyes. But they never do. It's just my thoughts in my head. Okay, come up onto your hands. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Once you're up on your hands, you're going to move your right foot back towards your inner right thigh just a little bit. Okay. And then move your fingertips back until you can get your hip points to start to rise up off of your right thigh bone. And then look back at your left foot and make sure that all 5 of your toes are on the mat. And you might need to bring the leg a little more to the midline of your mat. Okay, now you're going to try to limit the arch in your lower back by doing the belly work. Let your right hip rotate. Let your inner left thigh lead the way. And you're going to start to bend your left knee and bring the foot up towards the ceiling. Now there's usually you grab it with your left hand. Today we're going to grab it with your right hand to start. Right? It just mimics the shape of the final pose where your chest is square to the front of your mat a little bit better. Okay, once you have that, hip points up again, inner left thigh up. As you bend the left knee, try to kick the shin back to start to arch your upper back a little more. Now if you feel very stable and very balanced on your blanket, and you know it's not in your right knee or your low back, you can grab the back foot with your left hand as well. And then once you have it, you can really kick the shin back to get the chest to start to lift, but make sure you're still doing that belly work. These are very good. King pigeon. Yay. Good. And then let go of your back foot. And you can fold yourself forward into single pigeon for a few breaths. So my teacher named this dead pigeon, this pose, because that was king pigeon, and it's very much alive. And this is like dead pigeon, so that's what I always think. And it makes so much more sense when you do the whole thing together than when you just announce this is dead pigeon on its own. Otherwise, you seem mean. All right, come back up onto your hands, press back, 3-legged dog, and you can take a vinyasa or not. It just depends on what you feel like you need between sides. If your blanket's there, if you keep your legs really straight in up dog, you shouldn't hit it. And then second side, left leg, stretch it up and back, open, bend, stretch. Feel the work of the back of the leg. You're just always mimicking the shapes over and over so your body has a really good imprint once you get to the big pose. Right, now hold this, come forward, knee to tricep. Once it lands, foot towards your right wrist, and then come into single pigeon for a few breaths, reclining forward. Okay, so make sure, blanket under your left sit bone, under the top of your right thigh. And if you need 2 blankets to make the roll even bigger, you can do that. You want to make sure that you're very steady, especially because your hands are going to be leaving the floor. And if they leave the floor and you're unsteady, the risk on your knee and your low back are pretty solid, and that's not worth it. No king pigeon is worth that. Good. All right, couple more breaths. And then come up onto your hands. Bring your left heel back towards your inner thigh some. Make sure that foot is active like we've been working. And then look back at your right leg and just make sure that the 5 toes of your right foot are pressing straight down. Right, and then hip points, draw them up, chest up. Lead with your inner right thigh, bend the knee, bring the heel in. Right? Trying to get the foot to face the ceiling. And then with your left hand, grab the ankle. And then as you try to bend the knee, try to straighten it at the same time, get that sense of back bend. And then if you feel very balanced, with your right hand, grab the foot as well. And then once you have that, you can really kick the shin back, but make sure the belly works when you do that. So you turn the back bend into something that's happening in your upper back, not in your lower spine. Your lower back has to bend. You can see both of them are bending, but they're not over bending from there. It's this nice open curve from the back of their right knee all the way through the back of their neck. And you're trying to keep your chest square, and you're letting your left hip, the inner thigh, roll up, external rotation. Good. And then let go of your back foot, fold yourself forward a couple of breaths. No matter where you got to today, no matter how far through you got, you tried. And that was paying attention, doing what was making sense for you today, what you knew was going to leave you feeling better. And that's a big deal. So be really proud of however far you got. It doesn't matter the end result. What matters is that you were here, you did it. Right? And then bring yourself up, swing up and back, three-legged dog. We'll go through and just do a couple of back bends. You're all warmed up for it, so you might as well do a couple of back bends to finish it off. And then we'll just take a little bit of forward folding and be done. So move your blanket out of the way, and then you can either hop through and lie down, or just bring your feet forward, sit down, lie down on your back. So you have a couple choices. Bridge pose, totally do bridge pose. We did it at the beginning on the block. If you want to put the block back under and do supported bridge, you're welcome to do that as well. If you do Urdhva Dhanurasana, it's that kind of practice where that might feel really good. So are either one of you going to do Urdhva? Oh, both of them. Hey now. All right. Hands underneath hands alongside your ears. Same legs. So feet press evenly, inner thighs roll in, hug the legs together so they stay parallel. And then lift your hips like bridge to start. Once your hips are up, inhale to the crown of your head, pause there. Once you're on the crown of your head, elbows in, shoulders up, push your upper back through your arms to the back of your mat, and inhale, straighten your arms out and come into Urdhva. Right? Inner thighs roll in, tailbone, lengthen it, that same idea, but then arch your upper back and roll your triceps to the back of your mat. Good. And then duck your chin, try to keep your elbows hugged in on the way down, lower all the way down. And just one more. Okay, so a couple of breaths in between. Not too many, or there's this very strong risk of never going back up again. The back bend debate I have every day. Right, when you're ready, not when you're ready, right now, hands alongside your ears. Right, hips up first like bridge, and then inhale, crown of your head. Set your arms up, make it important. Set your upper back up by pressing it back, and then straighten your arms. Just 5 breaths. Let your neck hang heavy. Let your hands and feet feel even in terms of weight distribution. Look to lengthen your low back and arch your upper back. Good. And then duck your chin, slow motion. Bring yourself all the way down. Good. Okay, and then just place your feet mat distance apart. Let your knees knock together. And bring your hands to your belly. And just close your eyes if you like that. You can keep them open if you prefer that. Just pick a drishti point and gaze at it. And let's just do a little reclined twist. So right knee, hug it in. Left leg, extend it all the way out. And once you have hold of your right knee, just do a couple of circles of your thigh bone in the socket. So a couple of clockwise circles of the knee and then a couple counter. A lot of back bending, so just to release your lower back some. And then when you feel ready, drop your right knee to the left. Reach your right arm out to the side into a simple reclined twist. And start to make yourself feel heavy into the ground. So pretend your exhales actually had weight to them. And feel the weight of the exhales draw your body heavier into the floor. And then come back up and change legs. Hug your left knee in, right leg out. Do the little circles that you did on the other side. Good. And then when you're ready, twist it. Left knee to the right, left arm out, recline twist. So usually we do hip openers at the end and all that, but today we already did a lot of externals. We already did single pigeons. We're going to leave all that out and just do simple neutral forward folds to undo this. And come back up, hug both knees in, and wrap your arms around the backs of your thighs. And then you can let your lower back round. And if you want, you can start to straighten your legs out some here. You don't have to go all the way straight, just thinking of it as a soft forward fold. And then we'll do a bigger one. So hug your knees in and rock all the way up into Dandasana. You'll mimic the same thing but seated. So stretch your legs out, feet together or wider, as wide as your hips is perfectly fine. I like it that way. And sit up tall. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, fold forward. Make sure you still have that same amount of activity in your ankles that you worked in the rest of the practice. And then heels and thighs and sit bones all pressed down. And keep all that anchored and think about that little effort of a back bend in your upper back. And same thing you did, so your spine stays pretty long. There'll be a little rounding in your lower back forever. There is an end point to a forward fold, but you're trying to limit the amount of rounding you do in the rest of your spine. And inhale, sit yourself all the way back up. And then slowly lie yourself down on your back. So you have a blanket that you use during the rest of your practice. If you want to place it underneath your knees and do a little bit of a propped up Shavasana, or place it over the fronts of your thighs for a little added weight, you can do that as well. Either one. The one over your thighs just makes you feel a little more anchored after back bends. The one under your knees is a nice low back release. And then spread yourself out wide. And you paid attention when you started in that supported bridge to kind of what you had on your mat, what you'd shown up with energy-wise, what was going on in your mind, quality of what was happening. Just any differences, anything that's changed, even a sense of accomplishment of trying something new or maybe achieving something new. All of those things are tangible. Pay attention to the changes. They're why you do your practice. And beyond that, you're just going to be here and rest. So let your breath settle back to whatever it does normally. Let your body be really still. And try to keep your body still as you rest your mind and rest the rest of yourself. And beyond that, enjoy Shavasana.